now available on e-readers everywhere. From the author of the Simp Trilogy, Stop Simping, Why Men Don't Need Finance to Get Romance, Manginas, They Look Like Men But They Act Like Ladies, and The Misadventures of Captain Sailor Holcomb's Stop Simping in the Workplace. Learn what mistakes not to make with women and protect your job with Stop Simping in the Workplace. Available on e-readers everywhere. A job interview is supposed to be a meeting of the minds. It is supposed to be a meeting between an employer and a potential candidate where they pretty much sit down to discuss whether the employer is a good fit for the candidate and whether the candidate is a good fit for the organization. And in this meeting of the minds, oftentimes employers ask questions. And sometimes some employers use questions and questionable tactics to approach a potential interview candidate. And one of the things that some employers try to do is that they try to get an emotional response from a potential candidate by trying to start an argument with them during the interview process. And these employers believe that by starting this argument with this individual during the interview process, this will show them an example of how passionate this individual is, how much this individual cares about this job, and how much this individual wants this job. Unfortunately, when it comes down to this type of tactic, this is the type of tactic that really gives a potential candidate a negative picture of that organization. And the reason why it gives people a negative picture of the organization is because this whole process of trying to get a person into an argument does not show that the person is passionate about their skill and their craft. All it does is show that this potential employer is dishonest, manipulative, and pretty much is not an employer that you would want to work for, because this is not an individual you can trust. Because a employer who wants to have good employees in their organization understands this one point. You are the one who is paying this individual. So why would I want to get into an argument with someone I am about to put money on the table for? If this person is going to be working for me, then why would I want to have somebody who is going to be argumentative and pretty much trying to go into a back and forth with me on the job? Again, an interview is a two-way street. And just like the candidate is interviewing for the position, the employer is also being interviewed by the candidate to see if this individual, if this organization is a good fit for them. And both are trying to make a first impression on each other. And when you are dealing with a employer who is looking to start an argument with you on the first meeting, that's pretty much telling you that this individual who is representing their organization is pretty much showing you an example of a dysfunctional organization. Because only in a dysfunctional organization would people believe that arguing is an effective form of communication. Arguing means that communication has completely broken down. It does not mean passion. It does not mean that someone really cares. All it means is that communication is broken down, and that this person is pretty much getting frustrated and angry. And would you really want to have an employee who was easily frustrated or easily angry in your organization? If you're a smart business person, you're going to answer no to that question, because if you can push this person's buttons during the job interview, it pretty much shows you that this person, when you put them in a high-stress position or high-stress environment, they're going to fall apart when there's real pressure put on them. And this is something that many people who use this interview tactic of pushing people's buttons just don't understand. Whenever you are looking to hire an employee, you're making an investment in a person, and you are not only investing money, but you are also investing time. And whenever you have a person who is easily agitated, that's a big risk to your organization and a big risk to the resources you're going to invest in this individual. And a lot of people think that this whole approach of pushing people's buttons is a constructive way to find out something about a person, but it really just is not effective for an organization. All you do in many cases when you do push a person's buttons is you pretty much either alienate the person, pretty much lead to the interview falling apart, and then later on pretty much damage your long-term reputation as a business. Now, a lot of business people who use this approach also, again, they believe that if they do this, again, that this is going to lead to them finding these so-called passionate people. Now, they are coming at the interview process from a very emotional perspective. And the reason why they come at that perspective is because many people in human resources these days are female, and they believe that going at approaching a person from an emotional perspective will help them find the best candidates, but they're approaching that from an emotional perspective where they're thinking about like, not respect. And that's another issue with this whole emotional approach. It's about finding someone the person likes, not finding a person who is respectable and presents themselves in a respectable manner. Because a person who is very formal is going to look at that whole emotional response approach and say to themselves, the people in this organization do not respect themselves. They are looking to push buttons. They're looking to agitate people. And this is not an environment, that's really constructive for work. And when I look at this whole approach of trying to get into an argument with someone during the interview, it just reeks of one big crap test. And that's not what an interview should be. It should not be a big crap test where the employer tries to see how much stuff they can get away with. Because in a crap test, all a person is doing is trying to push a person's buttons to see what boundaries they can push and how far they can push a person to the wall. That's not how you find good, qualified, talented people. That's how you find dysfunctional people who pretty much suck a company's resources and then pretty much lead to a company going into a state of decline. Because when you have people who you can pretty much push to the wall, these are not people who can become leaders. These are not people who can rise to the occasion. These are people who cannot step up. And these are people who have none of the so-called passion many of these employers say they are looking for. Because, again, a passionate person is not going to approach things from an emotional perspective on the job. They're going to approach things from a professional perspective, and they are all about meeting the goals of the organization. And they want to hear about what goals the interviewer is setting for the position, what direction they are setting for their department, and what goals they want to pursue that year. That's constructive to someone during an interview. They don't want to go to an interview and have to deal with someone who is trying to start an argument with them. And that, again, shows weak leadership to a potential candidate, because if you're looking to start an argument with an employee, potential employee, you're showing that employee that you're a bad supervisor and that you do not know how to lead people and you do not know how to manage people. Because good managers understand that if I am signing the checks, I am looking for someone who will be able to work with me on a team, and I'm looking for someone who will be able to who will be free and open about communication and feel comfortable about communicating with me. And a person cannot feel free and open about communicating with you if the person is looking to start an argument from minute one. That pretty much leaves a bad first impression on people, and it leaves a sour taste in their mouth. And if that person gets hired, they're going to look in that organization and not think about working with that person as a team, but they're all going to think about is looking for ways to hide and deny and deflect. And that's, again, not healthy for an organization, and it leads to workplace dysfunction. When you have a guy in an interview, you can't really you don't get into an argument with them, because, again, this is about making a powerful first impression on people. People look at your organization and they look at your leadership at that interview, and if they see somebody looking to start arguments with them, they're not going to see a place where where people are being led. All they're going to see is an organization filled with dysfunction. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.